nhau để theo cái hình ảnh của nó nhé.
Đây đi lấy nước chưa?
Đây thì các bạn có thể thấy này, cái tên lửa nước của Israel thì có thể nói là nó hai bộ phận chính. Thứ nhất là các bạn thấy là cái bệ phóng đó rất là chuyên nghiệp như thế này. Cái thứ hai chính là cái tên lửa. Thì cái tên lửa đặc biệt ở đây thì nhóm chúng tôi có thiết kế đấy là một cái quay hình thấy mà cái mũi mà có thêm ba cái đuôi như này, một cái đuôi là để lái cho đúng hướng thôi. Và cái nguyên tắc hoạt động của nó chính là sau khi mà chúng ta bơm nước ở đây, bơm hơi vô thì cái này là cái chốt này. Thì đến sau khi đó chốt vợ các bạn thấy là khi chúng tôi giật cái này xuống thì nó sẽ bay lên nhé. Xin chào các bạn, và ngày hôm nay chúng ta sẽ cùng nhau đi tìm hiểu xem học chuyên ngành gì sẽ có thể làm ở trung tâm Vũ Trụ Việt Nam. Đi thôi. Rồi ghế. Chúng ta nhập chuyên ngành gì ở trong đại học để mà cái
Trung tâm mình cũng có nhiều mảng. Trong đó thì mảng chuyên văn học, học với ngành chuyên văn học. Mảng về mảng tám thì học cái TS, mảng tám bản đồ, cái liên quan nữa, cái lý cũng có thể nhận. Nói chung là liên quan tới khoa học đích, nhưng mà tùy theo chuyên ngành tại chuyên ngành này, tùy theo một mảng. Cái như bạn mảng mình công nghệ thì có thể tính toán. Nói chung là tùy theo cái nhu cầu á, từng cái bộ phận một cũng khác nhau.
Như em thấy ở Nha Trang anh có cái chỗ mà quan sát chuyên văn á, như là anh ở thành phố Hồ Chí Minh.
Mình làm về bên trung tâm ở Việt Nam này, chủ yếu là không chợ nào thì Trung thì khá đang xây.
Gia Hoa Kỳ Neil Armstrong là người đầu tiên đặt chân lên mặt trăng với câu nói nổi tiếng: đây là bước chân, bước đi nhỏ bé của một người, nhưng là bước tiến khổng lồ của nhân loại. Nhân dịp kỷ niệm ngày lịch sử của khoa học hàng không vũ trụ, Trung tâm ứng dụng công nghệ vũ trụ thành phố Hồ Chí Minh, Trường ĐH Bách Khoa, Đại học Quốc gia thành phố Hồ Chí Minh phối hợp tổ chức Ngày hội không gian Space Day lần thứ 3 tại thành phố Hồ Chí Minh với chủ đề 50 năm con người đặt chân lên mặt trăng.
Vỗ tay.
Tham dự sự kiện ngày hôm nay, tôi trân trọng giới thiệu các vị khách quý đến từ phía Tổng lãnh sự quán Hoa Kỳ. Chúng tôi trân trọng giới thiệu là Ann Baker, Nguyên, Phó Tổng lãnh sự quán Hoa Kỳ tại thành phố Hồ Chí Minh. Tôi trân trọng giới thiệu vị khách mời đặc biệt của ngày hôm nay, phi hành gia Nguyên Giám đốc cơ quan hàng không vũ trụ của Mỹ, Mr. Chales Bolden. 4 lần bay vào vũ trụ từ năm 1986 cho tới năm 1994. Trong đó có 2 chuyến công tác ông làm chỉ huy trưởng và 2 chuyến công tác ông làm phi công chính. Và tổng cộng ông đã ở trong không gian hơn 28 ngày. Ngoài ra ông còn là nguyên tổng giám đốc của cơ quan hàng không vũ trụ Hoa Kỳ. Chúng tôi được xin trân trọng chào đón lên sân khấu Mr. Chales Bolden. Welcome on stage.
Thank you so much. It's good to be with you today. Couple of rules before we get started. Rule number one. And I know we're going to have a question and answer period later, but every once in a while, some of you have a burning desire to ask a question and you just can't hold it. So if you have a question, if you just have to ask right now, go ahead and ask it and I'll try to answer. Rule number two is there are no dumb questions. So anything that you want to ask is okay. If you have a question, it probably means there's somebody else in the audience who has the same question. In fact, I may have a question, so I won't have an answer for you. I'll just tell you that. But can we go ahead and go to the full screen here?
Thế nào trong quá trình làm thuyết trình này ý thì trong quá trình làm thuyết trình thì có câu hỏi gì cái chị lên hỏi
không, giờ đầu tiên là lên hỏi đầu tiên.
You know, I think since time began, human beings have always been wondering about are we alone here on the universe, in the universe? So in NASA we have a big science organization, and they look at 4 different kinds of science. We look at our sun in an area called heliophysics. We look at our own Earth, on which we live in what we call Earth science. We look at the planets. We used to look at the 9 and 8 planets orbiting our sun. Today we look at planets around suns throughout other solar systems. And so today we actually have evidence that there exists in excess of 2,000 planets orbiting other suns that we call exoplanets, or planets that are sort of Earth-like. And you may wonder, why are we curious about the exoplanets? And it's because they're just the right distance from their suns that if you're familiar with the old fairy tale called Goldilocks and the Three Bears, I don't know if they talk about that in Vietnam, but where the mama bear and the papa bear left the baby bear, and the baby bear got into the house and started tasting the soup or porridge, and they were looking for a soup that was not too hot, not too cold, but just right. And so when we talk about exoplanets, we're talking about planets that are not so close to their sun that they're too hot, and not so far away that they're too cold, but right in the right zone that we call the Goldilocks zone that makes them just right, that perhaps life can exist there. So we ask ourselves these three, well, I thought we did. We ask ourselves these 3 questions all the time. You know, are we alone here in the universe? Are there other habitable planets? And is there life? So let's talk a little bit about some of the things that we do to try to answer those questions. This is a view of Earth from a vantage point that none of you have had an opportunity to see yet, but I've had a chance to see it 4 different times. And people ask a lot, what happens when you go to space? Do you change, or does your outlook on things change? And my answer is generally my perspective on the planet changes. And so to give you some idea of why I say that, close your eye, one eye, and take your thumb and put it right up. See the very thin blue line, right, if I can get this to work. It doesn't seem to work, but there's a very, look, you don't want to do that. There's a very thin blue line between Earth and the darkness of space. You have to turn your thumb sideways and put it up there. What happens to the atmosphere, that thin blue line? Huh? That's a question. What happened to it? It disappeared. So the lesson from that is we live in a very, very thin atmosphere. And it means that if we don't take care of it, we don't live very long. So that's the first perspective that I got, that we live not on a fragile planet, but that we as human beings are fragile, and we need to take care of the parts of the planet that take care of us. So that's one thing. Our atmosphere is very important to us. Another thing we notice is that Earth is a water planet. It's about 75% water, and you learn that we live in one big ocean. A lot of times we give different sections of the ocean names, but we live in one giant ocean, and there are bodies of land that stick up in that ocean that we call continents, and some if they're smaller we call them islands. But the point is We live on a water planet, so if we do something that damages one section of that ocean, eventually it gets to another section of the ocean. So, we can't isolate ourselves from other countries and other people. Another thing is with our atmosphere, it goes completely around the globe. So if we pollute one part of the atmosphere, eventually it'll get to another part. So there's no area, no section of the atmosphere that belongs to one country. So again, we're all one people. The final thing in terms of change of perspective, this is an area that's called the Middle East, and it's got a lot of countries in there. So I guess I'll ask you a question. Does anybody see a border or a boundary between any of those countries? That was something that I'm obviously of African American. I'm an American of African descent. And so when I got ready for my very first space shuttle mission, I spent a lot of time. I spent about a year studying the geography of Africa because I wanted to be able to determine which of the Western African countries my ancestors may have come from during the days of slavery. And, I lay on the launch pad for my first launch, and we stayed there for a couple hours, and then all of a sudden it was time to launch, and the countdown went about 7 seconds. The 3 main engines started, they went, and the shuttle kind of shakes a little bit, moves, and then comes back. We call this the twang. And there are 8 bolts that are attached to the solid rocket boosters that keeps it from tipping over. And so when it comes back, the solid rocket boosters ignited, and this big explosion, and everything started vibrating, and we lifted off. And you can feel yourself sink back in your seat ever so gently. And then we started out up across the Atlantic Ocean, and about 8.5 minutes later, the main engines cut off. It got very quiet and very smooth, and we were going about 23,000 kilometers an hour. So we went from 0 to 23,000 kilometers an hour in 8.5 minutes, which meant we were now going to go around the world, around the Earth, once every 90 minutes, once every hour and a half. So every 45 minutes, we saw the sunrise and the sunset, 16 times every normal day. But it also meant about 15 minutes into my flight, I looked out my window and I could see that the continent of Europe was going below, and then all of a sudden I saw this giant, what looked like a giant island. And I thought about it and I said, no, that's not an island, that's actually the continent of Africa. And so I said, okay, now I'm going to get a chance to see all these West African countries, and I'm going to look at Senegal and Nigeria and Ghana and all these places and find out where my ancestors may have come from. And all of a sudden, it was just like this picture. There were no borders, no boundaries. I had no clue what country was what. It just went from the incredibly beautiful Mediterranean coast in the north, through the Sahara Desert, through the jungle regions in Central Africa, all the way down off the tip of South Africa. So, third perspective, that there are no borders or boundaries that we have on this planet, and when we look at differences, or we try to create differences in people, they're all man-made, human-made. So, we're all one people. The scientists say we're about 99% alike when you really look at what we're made of, and only 1% is different. So that was one perspective. Another important thing, and it was mentioned earlier about the critical need for diversity. The fact that for you young ladies in the audience, we want you to know that you can do whatever you want to do. That you should not feel that you're limited. There are no jobs for men. A job is a job, particularly in the space field, the field of science and technology. What a man can do, a woman can do. You just have to study really hard, work really hard, and never, never, never give up. Don't be afraid of failure. That's okay if you fail. So let me show you something that NASA has done through the years. We're really trying to bring diversity to the agency. We're not where we want to be yet, but we've done relatively well in getting there. For the little girls and the young ladies in the audience, I hope what you noticed were you didn't see just astronauts. You saw some people that were working on food. You saw people that were doctors, lawyers, accountants. It takes everything to get astronauts into space. There have only been 500 or so people who've gone into space, but there are literally tens of thousands of people who are behind them who made it possible for them to go. And we want to make sure that at some time soon, at least half of those people are women. So, stay focused on things you want to do because you can do anything you want to. As we look at, try to understand our own planet Earth, we found that the more we learn about other planets in the solar system or other bodies in the universe, the more we learn about our own planet Earth. Because scientists now believe that at some point a long time ago, literally billions and billions of years ago, all this was created. That's one of the things that astrophysicists study all the time. So this is a mission that NASA's flying now. It was launched back in 2016. It's called OSIRIS-REx. And you can see the satellite over here in the bottom right-hand corner. OSIRIS-REx is now orbiting a big asteroid called Bennu. And about sometime next year, it will have picked out a landing site that's going to descend to almost land on the surface of Bennu, stick a big probe out into the surface, kick up dirt and dust, and collect it into a canister, and then that canister is going to come back to Earth, and in 2023, it's going to be dropped from space into the desert of Utah, and for the first time, we'll be able to look and measure and analyze a soil sample from another place other than the Earth or our moon. And that's going to be really exciting because we're hoping that we'll find signs of water and even maybe signs of microbial life. So this is a really exciting mission. People talk, how many of you have heard of Elon Musk and SpaceX? Okay, everybody knows about Elon. And for those who do know about Elon Musk, what does he want to do in terms of exploring the universe? What? He wants to go to Mars, exactly right. Now, I will tell you, I'm with Elon. I want to go to Mars too. He and I differ on one thing. I don't want to die there. He wants to go to live there and die there. I want to go there and come back. And I want to send some of you to Mars, and I want you to come back. Because it's going to be really critical that once you make the journey, you're able to come back and talk to some of your friends in Vietnam and around the world and tell them what the experience was like. We have to be able to be all these storytellers and get other people excited about what we're doing. So that's the way we're going to advance civilization. If we get you to travel to far distant places where we've never been before, but then come back and tell you a story about what it was like, good and bad. So today, we're not quite at Mars. We've been to the moon before 50 years ago, and we haven't been back since the Apollo era, and we're getting ready to do that again. So really important that humans go back to the moon, go back down to the surface of the moon in preparation to go on to Mars, because there's still some things, some technologies that we want to make sure are working absolutely correctly. So today, we live and work on the International Space Station. I tell people when I flew on the space shuttle, I was a camper. My long mission, I mean really long mission, was 9 days. Today, people live and work on the International Space Station for 6 months at a time. And I showed you Christina Koch. At the end of her time on Space Station next year, she will have been there for 1 whole year, just like American Scott Kelly did back in 2015. So we're staying in space for longer and longer periods of time to help us understand how human beings can survive in those types of environments. For not being able to answer everybody's questions, but we tried. Last question.
Thank you for your presentation. I have a question. What is the most impression when the first time you go to space, and how many people go with you?
What was the most
impression? What is your feeling?
Oh, what was my impression?
Yes.
Well, you know, other than what I was talking about, the two senses, they really get excited when you go to space, the sense of sight. And that's why I tried to show you that picture of the globe. It is absolutely incredible to look at this planet in all of its grandeur. It is absolutely breathtaking. And going back to the question the young lady asked in the back, we've got to work really hard to keep the planet looking that way. I mean, you know, we're getting, if we don't do something, what we do is we're on the verge of creating the first group of what we call climate refugees in the world. And there are people who lose their homes because they're no longer livable there. They don't have water, they can't grow food, and they're going to start migrating to other places. When that happens, what's the long-term result? Warfare, greed. People, you know, if I don't have food, I'm going to go somewhere and find it. And if you've got food or you have water and I don't, so we gotta turn that around. So the sense of sight was the first thing that really excited me. The other one is the sense of feel. And this feeling of floating, technically, scientifically, we're not really floating. We're constantly falling back to Earth, but centrifugal force won't let us. So centrifugal force and gravity are battling, we're caught in the middle, and we feel like we're floating. I mean, you can't tell me you're not floating because you can even feel your organs on the inside. They're moving up and down inside you. And if you do something and hold yourself down, you can feel your stomach press up against your diaphragm. You get used to it after a while. But those are some of the biggest senses. And you said, how many people did I fly with the first time? My first flight, we had a crew of 7. And in fact, on 3 of my 4 flights, we had a crew of 7. When we flew my second flight to the Hubble Space Telescope, we didn't have anybody except 5 NASA crew members because we needed the room because we had big camera, big IMAX camera, and Hubble facility. So we had a crew of 5 on that flight. You all have been absolutely incredible. So last thing I'll tell you.